we ring this peace bowl to remember and to affirm that these lands that we love, these lands where we love to walk, where we love to sit and look out from high places or look up from low places, that these lands we love are the ancestral lands of the Yavapai people. The Wipukepas, the Tolkepayas, the Quevkepayas, and the Yavapai. We also ring this bowl for the happiness of a new mixer. And I'm not talking mixer. I'm talking something that is with the sound, that will help us have sound that is more reliable. And the reliability may take time. So I am also giving you this happiness with a request for patience, because Martin has been working on this for many hours. And if something goes wrong in your mind, know that the future is bright. This morning, we are blessed with music that was born, some born in this place, and some born many years ago on our first winter in Japan. This one was born when I was in communication with Mary Lou when I was in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port on the edge of the Pyrenees, ready to begin my walk, and I did not know what was ahead. I knew that resistance fighters had walked across that place. I knew that fogs could take people off their path, and there were graves along the way of pilgrims who did not make that walk. The hardest of that pilgrimage, the hardest part, are those 29 kilometers as you begin. Please welcome Sarah Walder Amata. Oh, she's not there. There she's Sarah. And Mary Lou Prince. Let us listen to and get in the mood for setting out.
Good morning. That's what you get when you only get 2 hours of sleep a night. So, but good morning and welcome everybody here and on Zoom. I assume there's some, I don't see any faces, but I welcome you to the Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist congregation here in Prescott. I'm Lydia Garrett, and I am awake. Your worship assistant for this morning. We're glad to see you all here in person. It's nice to see so many faces here. Makes a difference when the choir is here too. And so I hope all of you are in good health, and let's keep it that way. If you're here for the first time, please check out our website at prescottuu.org for more information. At the end of the service, we usually take a little time for people who are here for the first time or are here after a long absence to introduce yourself if you feel comfortable to do that. So now we want to thank all of the many congregants who make the service this morning possible. Our special musicians, especially this morning, the choir, and of course the many Sunday volunteers that come early to make all this run smoothly. So, and including the coffee people who are hard at work in the kitchen right now. So now please take a moment and calm your ringing electronic devices so you won't get embarrassed. So put it on silent mode. And now to our announcements. You have seen some announcement ahead of the service, and sometimes they're there afterwards, so please look at them. You can also read them in the Weekly Peak column, online newsletter that we have, and of course on our website, and Reverend Patty's videos. Again, it takes many volunteers to make all of that happen and fall into place. Sandra Palacios, our faith coordinator, is teaching the children 5 and over across the street in our faith development building, and we also have a nursery here in the building when it's needed. Okay, let's continue with our announcements, if there aren't any on there. I was given 2 of them just now. Today is the last day to make reservations in Davis Hall for Saturday's annual congregational dinner. That's this coming week. And it's at the Prescott Centennial Center at 5 p.m. on Saturday. Rights are available. Contact Marianne Erickson today. If you haven't made your reservations, please do now. Furthermore, there is an announcement about the endowment presentation. The endowment committee of this congregation invites all members and friends to attend a presentation after the service and after you've had a chance to go get a cup of coffee, okay? It will be at 11:30, so plenty of time to get some of the goodies and some coffee. You'll find out more about it there. It's a very important service. Okay. Now, as usual, we begin our service in a Unitarian Universalist tradition in lighting the chalice. And our chalice lighter this morning is Peggy Beaupré. So, thank you, Peggy. We light this chalice, a symbol of our heritage and in gratitude for our beloved community. And for today's chalice lighting, I chose the following words by Albert Einstein. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when you contemplate the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It is enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. Never lose your holy curiosity. So.
What a wonderful reading. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, thank you. Good morning. Wow, it is so good to see all of you here. As you know, I was doing some mindfulness training for 1 month, and I can tell you, it's much easier when you're not doing much. Mindfulness is getting harder day by day, but I will try to keep it up, I promise. I promise. I love the air here. It is wonderful to be back with the air that I believe is coming from those trees that speak to me each day, that tell me to stand and listen and feel the wind. We are blessed today because our children are coming here after the service, and this was not mentioned, but our faith development coordinator, Sandra Palacios, has made chilaquiles, and the salsa she made from scratch. It promises to be wonderful, and if any of you are on Zoom, you have time to get here. Today, together, we are delving into the world of images of God. I wonder what images you bring with you. In the Japanese animated film, Spirited Away, how many of you have seen that film? Spirited Away. The protagonist of the film ends up in a hot springs for the gods. And there's this procession of all of these gods going to the hot springs. I hope you see that film sometime just for that playfulness of those gods, those images who enjoy the hot water. As Unitarian Universalists, we are proud of being pluralistic. We are proud of our openness, of our devotion to many faiths. Last week, I attended an Episcopal gathering with our friend who was visiting from Washington, D.C., who's Episcopalian. And during that service, we listened to the Nicene Creed. And if you see on the walls of this sanctuary, they're a little difficult to read, except for this one, which Chris Hawthorne beautifully colored in purple. But these represent some of our principles that Unitarian Universalists got together, and over a period of years, they forged what they felt was what we had in common, we who come from so many places. And in recent years, another idea has come up. There was another principle that came out, the 8th principle, and there is an ongoing process now to shift all of this to something about values. And I wonder if the most important thing about that change was that love is not mentioned in the principles that were carved out all those years ago. And with these new values, you will find love at the center. In our social justice campaigns, we love those yellow t-shirts that say, "Side with love." And I think we constantly need to ask ourselves, what is love? And if we know what that is, are we really standing in that love? And I wonder if that word is the way that Unitarian Universalists speak of God. When we speak of God, when we speak of love, are we speaking of God? This is a question. These are the words of Unitarian Universalist minister Sherry Woodbury. Love is the center and foundation of this faith. Love is the power that holds us together as a community. As we enter into worship, let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love. Because love is not only something we receive, but something we practice in community. Let fall away all that might distract us from the wholehearted practice of love. Let us rise in body or spirit and sing Ubi Caritas, where there is love.
Which may not be known to all of you, so Venus going to play it through once, and then we'll sing it twice, and by the second time we'll have it.
1048 in your hymnals, if you have one. Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est. And now we will listen to a video starring Russ Erickson and Lena Hubin.
Russ and I first became UU members of any sort at Granite Peak after moving here in 1999. We were pretty ready to join immediately over at the Adult Center after being received in a friendly way by some very special people, and with the minister Jan Christian, and being there in that fine space under the disco ball, we were good to go.
After being unchurched for 35 years, the warm welcome that we felt at the Adult Center was a wonderful thing. And the fact that they only met every other week fit in perfectly with my reintroduction to any kind of religion. And of course, having an interview with Jan Christian, we were ready to commit as soon as we had spoken to her.
And I do want to say that the very first time we went there, we had our two little elementary adopted kids from overseas, and they were doing the water communion. And I had read about it before I came, somehow caught wind of it. So I had my little film canister of Ganges waters. The last place we had lived was in India. So I brought it and poured a little of that with the water.
In terms of service at Granite Peak, I first served on the committee on ministry, with Randy Phillips and Sally Richards and Dan Spencer. And I enjoyed working with those folks tremendously. I felt like I was doing something worthwhile, And I decided that I could continue serving in any way that I could. So I served as treasurer for 4 years. I chaired the Committee on Ministry with Carla Brockie for 3 years. And then I returned as treasurer for another 5.5 years more. And along the way, I sang with our very first choir. And somewhere in there, I joined the Reverend Boys. And I have done both of those ever since. At the present, I'm with the Personnel Committee and with the Finance Committee and with the project team that's looking at changes here at Granite Peak.
And I started playing piano almost immediately at the Adult Center under that disco ball and with 2 very nice windows behind me. And I have been at it ever since and been happy to be able to do that. And played for choir when choirs started being a thing here, and many different directors, but all the way to our present incomparable Mary Lou Prince, whom I have begged never to leave. So, and the other thing, justice related particularly, is I knew I wanted to work with immigrants. I had taught ELL when I retired in 2009 at Bradshaw Mountain High School, and it was just serendipitous that Nancy Reed McKee had just begun this thing called congregation-based community organizing. So based in, churches, religions, not just UU, but I went to a sort of a study thing in Phoenix about it, and I was soon asked to start an ELL class at Miller Valley. And it's still going on, this class. It's been various numbers and places. It's now over at Prescott Unified School District. And so I've been gratified to keep that going. And also I have done the juvenile detention services for many years, every month or 2, depending on how many they have going on. And now I am gratified to be working with Patty, Reverend Patty, accompanying immigrants who are in need throughout the year when things pop up, but also at Christmas time, the giving event, which is very involving. And I'm just gratified by all that stuff.
As to why I support Granite Peak, I guess mainly it's because I feel that the mission of this congregation aligns with my sort of personal code. I think the only religion that really makes sense to me is one that accepts all people, regardless of their background or anything else about them. And finally, in working in these various roles and with getting to know the people in the congregation, it has been a huge pleasure for me. People wondered how I could be treasurer for so long, but it was the interaction with all the people that I had every Wednesday that made that a joy for me. And I will continue to do what I can to support Granite Peak.
And I likewise. I was kind of stunned to know that there was a religion and a church that accepted Buddhists and everybody, Jews. And I like to kind of proselytize about that, in fact. And so this has been an avenue for my passion, sort of, piano, and supporting marginalized people in our community. And I also happen to have come to love a lot of the folks here. It's kind of like another home. So we shall carry on.
Now. And there's a lot more. I'm just warning you, this service is going to go long. We have a lot of music, we have a lot of things, so don't get nervous when you look at I'm sure you'll be able to munch on something in Davis Hall if you are feeling antsy. I'm doing that because I start to feel really antsy, and I'm going to stay mindful. And I invite you to as well. Let us say our covenant together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. And now I invite you into a different time, a time when we consider the joys and sorrows we bring to this place, those that are within our community, in our greater community, and in the world. Let us breathe together, find or remember the feeling of the earth under our feet, this earth we love so well that has supported us through all our years. On this day, we hold especially Craig Phillips, who has been diagnosed with cancer and will be having a very difficult surgery on Wednesday. We hold Diane Harper, who will have heart surgery tomorrow. We hold Rick Denny's daughter's father-in-law, who is in the ICU. We hold Terry Eggleston, who is mourning the death of his sister Mary Beth, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. We hold Joyce Dennison, who is in the last weeks of her life. We hold the people of Gaza and Israel. We hold the leaders who have power in this, that their hearts will be turned to peace. We hold the people affected by Sudan's civil war. There is so much happening on this earth. Let us breathe together, and I invite you into a time of meditation. Lena Hubin will be playing some music, and I invite you, this is the time when you can come and put a stone in the water that would represent a joy or sorrow in your life, in the greater community, or in the world. We hold as well concern for a friend, Doc, who is having surgery this week to remove prostate cancer, hoping for a successful procedure and a quick recovery. And this one, our family has two joys, so we're going to end with joy. Julian earned 2 awards at school recently, one of which is the Tenacity Award for not giving up. This is a huge accomplishment for him given his developmental disabilities. Our second joy is that our daughter Clara is turning 4 this week. Let us sing our prayer together in spirit of life. I invite you to stay seated and let us sing together. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea.
As we prepare to take our Sunday morning offering, let us enjoy the feeling of community we share when we get together each week. And it's so nice to see so many of you today. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. Each month, we also choose to give back to our greater community by sharing through our Seeds of Support program. This month's recipient has been, and today still is, the Opportunity Scholarship at Yavapai College. On the back of your daily order of service, you find more about it. So, to give online, please go to the prescottgu.org/giving. On that page, you find a donate link. I know you will especially enjoy the music presented this morning by Mary Lou Prince and cellist Sarah Walker Amata. We are grateful for these generous offerings received this morning. What is given in love is received with gratitude. Blessed be.
Our reading this morning, and that was beautiful, thank you. Our reading this morning is by Zora Neale Hurston, a cultural anthropologist and novelist. This is from Their Eyes Were Watching God. The wind came back with triple fury and put out the light for the last time. They sat in company with others in other shanties, their eyes straining against crude walls, and their souls asking if he meant to measure their puny might against his. They seemed to be staring at the dark, but their eyes were watching God. I wonder if you have ever been in such a storm when you felt the universe moving around you. I remember the tornadoes that came through north central Wisconsin during the summer. We huddled in the basement together, hoping our roof would stay on and no windows would blow in. And when the storm had passed, we bicycled around, looking at where the tornado had touched down, examining those huge tree trunks that had been lifted out of the earth, their root systems exposed, looking very much to me like baobabs. The tomato plants of our garden pressed to the earth as if by a huge holy hand. Memories of storms appear in my life story like large brushstrokes of complex colors. What are your memories when the earth seemed to be riled up and out of control? The protagonist of the story that I read to you at the beginning is with her friends in a flimsy house by the sea. And as they watch the storm, they feel that they are watching the eyes of God. When you think of God, do you have an image? What comes to your mind? In my childhood, I received the great privilege of travel, of time in places when you could dawdle, in times when you could dawdle in the Sistine Chapel in Rome, where Michelangelo created that image of God that I adopted as my own, that bearded, white-haired, white-skinned, and mighty male. And that was the image I thought of when I prayed. And praying was a nightly ritual, and this is where the photograph comes in. This is a photograph of me with my elder brother Wes, who some of you met last year at my installation. We are praying, we are saying our nightly prayers. Our parents are watching by us with a camera this time. And this was a daily practice. I kept going with this practice and this image of a God who had all of this hair, which was unusual because in my family the men were mostly bald. But God was different than my father because he had a lot of hair. And my father had a beard, but it was red, and the God's was white. And I kept this image until I was about 26 and 7 months and 3 days and 4 hours old. Anyway, At some point, not quite as easily pinpointed as I said, I realized that in order to be happy, I was going to have to leave the religion of my ancestors. And I grew up LDS. My ancestors had joined from the very beginning of that religion. And in order to be happy, I realized at some point I had to leave. And if I did that, I knew I would have to lock this God I had prayed to out of my house. Because I realized this was a turning point for me, that if my misery pleased him, I wanted nothing to do with him. And that was a big affirmation for me at 26. And only about 3 months after I locked him out, we were on a plane headed for Japan, the land of Shinto, which means the way of the gods, or kami. On trains through the Japanese countryside, as you pass through villages and by rice fields, you will find patches of old, tall trees. These trees are a sign of a Shinto shrine. The trees that grow in the precinct of a shrine are kami themselves, or gods, and are not to be cut down. One of our favorite places to go was a Shinto Buddhist complex by the sea in Toyama Prefecture. At this complex by the sea, there was an ancient ginkgo tree said to be 1,000 years old. Its outermost lower branches were covered in white slips of paper that expressed the hopes of the people who visited. Hopes to pass an examination, find a spouse, have a child, travel safely. We prayed there during our last winter in Japan, our 24th winter, when 20 feet of snow fell around us. We prayed that winter often at the sea for a good transition to our home in Arizona. We prayed for happiness, for a way to use our gifts in a new place, for a way to give back to the world that had given us so much. By then, our 24 years had transformed my image of God, Imago Dei, to something so much larger than what I had been brought up with. An image as huge as the night sky, the falling stars, and as tiny as those fireflies that appeared in June hovering over the flooded rice fields. Some linguists and theologians think it is better to use the Japanese word kami instead of the translation word God, because the concept is so different. Kami are literally everywhere. They are also the sacred in everything. When we took out the floor of our farmhouse, because the foundation, we could actually bounce on it a sort of a trampoline effect. So we had to remove all of the floorboards and the posts that kept that floor up that was in such array. Anyway, in that floor, in the earth that was under that floor, about this much under that floor, we found gods that were buried there. They were the gods that were to protect that house and that family, the people who lived there. On the ceiling of our front room, there was evidence that there had been a shelf that had held a small Shinto shrine, or it's called a kamidana, or the god shelf. This shelf was a reminder of the kami who lived in the shrine that was just up the road, that separated the two parts of this village where we lived. And on the ceiling, they had left the paper that goes above a shrine that said cloud, because it was important that the shrine was as close as possible to the sky. This way of the kami became intertwined in our life. The tiny village shrine was the site of spring and autumn gatherings when the priest would come to bless the growing plants or the harvest and any new babies that were born. It was where we went each day to give thanks on our walk that took us up to the upper village and the forest roads that spread through the mountains. It was a place that became a part of each day. At the heart of Shinto is purification. The priest purified us at the shrine with great sweeps of white strips of paper attached to a pole. I once went on a pilgrimage to northwestern Japan, and these streamers of paper were a meter long. Usually they were and they would just brush across the floor. And every year we would clean our house, and people would always clean their house right before New Year's. You would see people cleaning their cars, the businesses, everything would become clean. And then at midnight, people began journeying to a shrine, sometimes their neighborhood shrine, and sometimes one that was an important shrine in the area. And they would bring with them their hopes for the new year. Looking around our building and the work of the project team, I think that we appear to be purifying and clearing our space, clearing the way for our hope to flourish and to make room for those ideas that urge us towards hope. I invite you to walk around the building and get an idea of what that team has been doing. One of the first Chinese characters I learned was the one for kami, or God, and I searched for that kanji everywhere. One of my most wonderful discoveries was at a museum in the old capital of Nara of a Yume no Gairu kami, which was a god who changed dreams. I imagined a god who could transform nightmares into happy dreams. I painted this kami on a tile with children who had strands connected with the moon. I wonder, would you take your child or grandchild or yourself to that God's dwelling place with a hope to change a dream? Another of my favorite kami was the Tanbo no kami, which was the rice field god. And when I heard that these gods were connected with lightning, I thought they were protecting the fields. They were standing there protecting the fields from lightning. I was wrong. One of their roles was to call in the lightning, for the lightning infused energy and caused the plants to grow. The lightning itself could also be a kami, as was thunder, a god who made the noise by beating a great drum in the sky. At night during this season, which was called Daikan, or the Great Cold, snow often fell at night, but not like the snow of my years in Wisconsin, a blanket that fell quietly, covering the landscape and surprising us in the morning. The snow fell during storms, when strong winds made our house sway and thunder beat its drum and lightning cracked above us, very often in the same moment as the thunder. The snow came often 3 or so feet at a time, sliding off our roof like the gods were going tobogganing, or sometimes collecting until we feared that our roof would collapse, and once taking the stovepipe of our wood-burning stove with it down into a snowbank. The melody of this music for koto and cello was born during the first winter in that North Country. Let's listen to Winter Storm at Midnight. Ooh. Thank you. Shinto shrines are homes of sacred objects, the sword, the mirror, and the jewel. All of these hold the power of the kami. Once when I bowed at a shrine and was praying or giving thanks for something in my life, as I looked up, I caught my own eye in the mirror of the altar. This was a profound experience for me, wondering if in the end we find ourselves in our search for God. I wonder, can our faces reflect that image of God? In For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough by Totsake Shangi, she wrote, "Through my tears, I found God in myself, and I loved her fiercely." In Black churches, the God of the Sistine Chapel is transformed into a Black man, and in the hearts of many women, the God they revere is female, or the God is gender neutral, laughing and joking and full of fun. In the mindfulness training I took during my sabbatical time, Tara Brock, one of the facilitators, tells about her child's classroom at a Waldorf school. One child was intently painting a picture, and the teacher asked, "What are you painting?" "God," she replied. The teacher said, "But no one knows what God looks like." She said, "Just give me a few minutes and I'll be able to show them." I wonder if this sermon has conjured any images for you of God. I believe that just as we can find our own face in that mirror that shows God, other humans can also play a vital role in showing us God. I close with these words that I wrote shortly after the death of Marjorie Tyndall, a woman we had met at a Unitarian Universalist congregation south of Tucson. And we have a picture now. You get to see her. That's Marge Tyndall. During the days around her death, I was at a retreat during which they asked us when our shoes had been knocked off. This is what I wrote. For Marge, April 19th, 2012. During the last 2 days, my shoes have been knocked off again and again, as if a holy wind, ruach, stirs around me, but not gently as it sometimes does. Now it is like a microburst in the desert that can pull a telephone pole out from its moorings and take a saguaro from the foot of a mountain to its top, intact, blossoms waiting for their fullness. That wind, I think is the mic working? Okay. That wind stirring around me pulls off my shoes and knocks me to my knees. I have lost a friend, a mother whose presence, taken from this earth, is a wrenching blow to my being. Yet, like all the manifestations of that wind, from its gentle softness at midnight under a blanket of stars to the terror of tornadoes, the loss moves from gentle gratitude to a scream of disbelief that her face will no longer approach mine. Her eyes unseeing at first, and then lighting with recognition that the form she sees is mine. My shoes are knocked off by the holiness of her love and the love she bids me now embody, my own heart opening to the world as hers did to me, giving and receiving, and in her huge heart, she took all that mine mustered at first and then flowed like a river. She did not believe in God or angels, yet in her face, I at last saw God, and in her presence, the rush of wings. I stand, my shoes knocked off, never wanting to put them on again, and I couldn't. The force of the wind has destroyed them. They are only bits of leather scattered on the sand. Only bits of leather scattered on the sand. It is my prayer for you that we may be blessed in finding God, in the trees, the sky, the mountains, and may we open to the possibility of the God who is within us and who may appear at our side. Amen, and may it be so. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and we will sing the words of a Unitarian Universalist, Pastor Theodore Parker, who harbored runaway people who were enslaved in the South. He harbored them in his home. He wrote his sermons with a pistol by his side. And this is what he wrote of our religion. Please rise in body or spirit. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual words We close with another view of God written by a Unitarian Universalist pastor as a power at work in the universe. My friends, Reverend Tom Shada writes, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but it was not made by human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power, and we can trust that power with our lives. It will sustain us whenever we take a stand on the side of love, whenever we take a stand for peace and justice, whenever we take a risk. Trust in that power. We are together held by that power. Amen. And may it be so. And now we will hear what it might sound like to arrive after 500 miles, our feet sore, and seeing that gate to the city open and waiting, arrival.
Trinity Presbyterian Church on April 28th in the afternoon. You'll hear more about it, but we got lots of like this and other. So, thank you.
Thank you, and Mary Lou would be very happy to explain to you about the koto later on. So if you have interest in the instrument, do not be afraid to come and take a peek at it and look at how it works. It's quite something. So now we will extinguish our chalice together. I think we know it. Oh, there it is. Okay. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you. Thank you all. What a beautiful service. And part of that service was the energy and the presence that all of you brought. It was deeply felt by those of us who were up here, by the musicians, by all of us. Thank you, thank you. And now is the time when we have for people who are visiting or returning after a long time, if you'd like to introduce yourselves. Everybody. Oh, welcome, welcome. And we're not going to, those of you who love announcements, we're not going to turn this into a regular thing. But we do have two people who would like to, there's an important announcement about the projects team. Is that right, Rick? And then, Robert, are you still here?
Yes.
Okay.
Patty's already noted that we have a new mixer back there. Martin has worked tremendously hard to identify an appropriate substitute. We understand that this is very future-proof. An expert who came and looked at it said this should be good regardless of what we do in the future with this sanctuary for 5 to 10 years. And they worked very hard, including last night, to get it switched over from the old system. There were many hours involved in figuring out the complexity of this new one. However, I will say that this new one, once it's set up, should be much easier for people, for him and others to operate. And the only other thing I would just call to your attention about all the things that are getting done, thanks to the congregational support that you gave us at the meeting a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Things are happening. We've got a new dishwasher coming. The front is being renovated and so forth. So lots of things are happening. Thank you so much for your support in that effort. Thank you.
After working on the Martin Luther King celebration event, the committee decided to take a month off until we were sharply chastised that this is Black History Month and we have nothing going on. So about a week ago, a gentleman approached us and they're going to be bringing 3 performers to the Federal Building, which is the old post office downtown, and they added a second performance on Monday. So today it's at 3 p.m. at the Federal Building, and then on Monday it'll be on the 26th at Prescott College Crossroads Center. It is based on donations, and myself and 2 other members of the committee have decided to sponsor this event. So if you choose to come, and if you choose to donate anything, that means the less that I have to pay. okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you. And there are chilaquiles waiting. And please talk with the children. This is our time to get to know them. We're doing things a little differently this year than we have in previous years, and this is a part that they're comfortable with, is providing food for us, and they'd love to talk to you. Let's go over there, and then after there's a meeting about the endowment.